AIDS like the plague is from God, for he sees something wrong in his eyes. Anal inflicted descendant. AIDS. Anal inflicted descendant. AIDS. Anal inflicted descendant. AIDS.
Breakthrough is unquestionably the fact that in just a few short years from the recognition that this disease exists, scientists have been able to identify and isolate the underlying cause or etiologic agent. And AIDS is caused by HTLV3.
The Public Health Service has received reports of about 5,800 cases of AIDS with a case fatality ratio of 45%. Dr. Anthony Fauci is hopeful that the answer to this dreaded disease may be in sight.
I believe now that we have the agent in hand, that the amount of effort and energy that's being put into it by biomedical sciences, that within a reasonable period of time we'll have a lot of these answers.
Well, it's certainly nice to know that the future looks brighter. Now let's go to the lecture and join Dr. Anthony Fauci as he talks about AIDS.
This evening, what I'd like to do is discuss with you a topic which I'm sure all of you, to a greater or lesser degree, are aware of. It's a topic that has occupied the interest and energy of a substantial proportion of the biomedical research community here at the NIH and throughout the country and the world most recently. And that is the subject of the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. I'm working directly on AIDS, both clinically and from a basic science standpoint, but it gives me a great deal of pleasure and excitement to talk about AIDS, because it really is one of the few, or actually one of the only subjects of all of the subjects that we tackle throughout the years, where you really have to change your lecture every month because of the extraordinary advances and evolution of this syndrome. That has provided a great challenge for the scientists involved in this, and has provided in many respects hope for the individuals who are afflicted with this terrible syndrome. What I'd like to do this evening is to review for you...
Ditto heads. What is a ditto head? Someone that believes in something without asking any questions. What are ditto heads? Ditto heads are people that follow Christianity. And also, I'm going to show you what else a ditto head is people that follow science. Notice this card, this Illuminati card, blinded by science. Well, what does the Bible have to say? I'm going to take you to 1 Timothy 6:20. This is the King James Version. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of silence, falsely so called. No one gets that scripture, but if you read the scripture across other Bibles, you do start to get it. 1 Timothy 6:20, Amplified Bible. O Timothy, guard and keep the deposit entrusted. Turn away from the irrelevant, babbling and godless chatter with the vain and empty and wordly phrases and the subtitles and the contradictions in what is falsely called knowledge and spiritual illumination. So they're saying that it's falsely called knowledge, but it's really spiritual illumination. It's contradictions. Okay, it sounds intelligent, but it's not. It's just babbling and contradictions that you're hearing, and they're calling it science. Okay, now I'm going to take you over to 1 Timothy 6:20. This is the J.B. Phillips. O Timothy, guard most carefully your divine commission. Avoid the godless mixture of contradictory notions, which is falsely known as knowledge. Some have followed it and lost their faith. Grace be with you. Well, you lose your faith. That's what it's there for. It's to take away a faith. Now, here's what it's ultimately there for. This is 1 Timothy 6:20, God's Word translation. Timothy, guard the good news which has been entrusted to you. Turn away from pointless discussions and the claims of false knowledge that people use to oppose the Christian faith. Oppose the Christian faith. Well, it's like this. You got a choice. What do you choose? Do you choose Christianity or do you choose science? Which one is your choice? Both of them being fake, both of them being fraud. Ditto heads follow science. Ditto heads follow Christianity.
Now, first of all, we must have a definition of AIDS, and I will tell you right off that the definition that is given, although it is a good definition, in fact, it's an excellent definition, it has some serious flaws. And the reason for the flaws are that it's an empiric definition that is based on the secondary complications that someone will get who has AIDS. And let me explain what I mean. First, we'll go through the definition. It's the presence of pneumocystis carinii pneumonia or other opportunistic infections or Kaposi sarcoma. Now, for those of you who aren't used to hearing that terminology, what it is there's the presence of a disease in an individual that you would not expect to see in someone who is otherwise normal immunologically. For example, if I said influenza or the common cold or some other disease, you'd expect to see that in a normal population, in a population that does not have an immunological defect.
You hear Dr. Fauci speak those big words in his interview there up on the podium, or his speech, but they are just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Like the scripture says, science is exactly what 1 Timothy 6:20 says it is. And again, Aleister Crowley says science is 2 truths, biology 1 and mathematics. And they mix those 2 truths with outrageous, unprovable lies. And that's what you get as science today. Science is a weapon. AIDS is fake, as this next video that I have will show, that HIV and AIDS can be cured with a fruit diet. And AIDS is something that will not kill you. It's something that's in the blood. Either you have it or you don't. And people that test positive are not sick, but their genetics make them positive. These people weren't sick at all. Yet the medical industry put them on powerful drugs that kills them. He gives an example in the video that they were so powerful that they were killing people immediately. But if not, the pills take time and they'll kill them over time. All medical prescribed pills are poison that kill you. What they do, and you see the serpent that's up on there that's climbing the staff, and if someone was bit by a snake, it's the same thing. Gets them numb at first, feeling okay, but over time that poison seeps in and it kills them. That's exactly what the medical industry is. And the medical industry is exactly what the symbolism says it is. It is Lucifer.
Welcome to True Health Tuesdays. Tonight we're talking about AIDS and HIV. And we're gonna explore it a little bit different. Kind of like what the public knows, what the public thinks they know, and what are actual facts. And the most frustrating thing when you're talking not about just HIV, AIDS, or cancer, or any of these diseases, but you can get the same disease, okay? Information from 2 different sources is totally different. And I know that doesn't make sense, but it's kind of like if you have chickenpox in Japan, think it's the same chickenpox in Russia? Yeah, it is. Same red pustules, lasts about 2 weeks. You got lifetime immunity, herpes zoster virus. You can even reproduce it. Okay, can't say that with AIDS or HIV. But let's look at what the government thinks. Okay, because if you go on AIDS.gov, this is what the general public. Now, granted, all the information that we have here is available to the public. Okay, but how many people read the Journal of Toxicology in their spare time? Okay, no, not many. Okay, so this is all public. But let's look at the propaganda machine. I'm sorry, the CDC. Okay, AIDS.gov. Okay, HIV attacks the body's immune system, specifically CD4 the T cells, which help immune system fight off infections. This makes the person more likely to get infections and eventually die. Now, get this, unlike some other viruses, the human body can't get rid of HIV completely. So once you have HIV, you have it for life. No effective cure for HIV currently exists, but with proper treatment and medical care, HIV can be controlled. Okay, that's what you've been told about. Okay, so now again, we're going to go through the government propaganda machine and what the actual science is. Now, symptoms in 40 to 90% of the cases. So already that should bother you. Okay, so that means not everybody has the same symptoms. And so we're talking fever, tender lymph nodes, throat inflammation, rash, headache, nausea, and vomiting and diarrhea. Now, granted, there are other conditions that have those same symptoms. Now, what spreads it? Unprotected sex, body fluid transmission, hypodermic needles, mother-to-child delivery, breastfeeding. And this is, again, what the government says. The problem is now, how do they diagnose it? Well, it's a spectrum condition caused by infections from the HIV. Now, a spectrum of conditions is, and we're going to go over that, but defined in terms of either CD4 T cell count below 200 cells. Now, AIDS is the stage of infection when your immune system becomes too badly damaged. Okay, you become vulnerable to opportunistic infections. And again, this is the government. So in 2014, there were 44,000 diagnosed with HIV, 26,000 with full-blown AIDS. Death is about 7,000 a year. Okay, now look at the CDC. The death of a person with an AIDS diagnosis can be due to any cause, that is, the death may or may not be related to AIDS. Okay, now, if you're smoking enough weed to understand this, okay, because grass is legal in California, okay, they're giving you the death statistics, and then they're saying it may or may not be related to AIDS. They just were in this category and died of it. Okay. So the statistics are horrible. 2 million new cases, 1.2 million in the U.S., estimated 50,000. So it seems like it's still growing. Okay, how are they diagnosing it? So, and I love this. How does the CDC know who is infected or doesn't? Okay, is that a good question? Because they're the one, the Center for Disease Control. Off the CDC site, the CDC estimates the number of people living with HIV called prevalence by using a scientific model. This model helps the CDC estimate the new number of HIV infections and how many people are infected, but they don't know it. So wait a second. So all of these numbers that they're talking about, all of these statistics, they're not really counting people. Okay, it's a statistical model. Now, the history of it, they think it started because there's a lot of retroviruses in primates. First African primates. The bushmeat theory is that these African Aborigines went into the jungle, shot monkeys, ate the meat, got infected, and then flew to America and infected people, and it went everywhere else. Okay, after World War II, migrated to cities through prostitution, so that means female to male contact, IV drug use, other forms of contact. And again, this is the government theory. 81 to 82, clinicians identified an immune system disorder. There was a dysfunction of T cells. Now it's interesting because most diseases are going to activate T cells, so there's going to be a change in T cell production. Groups at risk, they call them the 4 H's: hemophiliacs, heroin addicts, homosexuals, Haitians. Yes, Haitians. And when you look at it, AIDS is officially caused by the retrovirus HIV. Now, when we look at it, so you get a virus called HIV, and vaccines are used to get a virus, and you're talking millions of people with this. Does anyone hear the ka-ching? Okay, this is like, oh my gosh, what an opportunity, because we have this great fear, okay, of a life-threatening disease. 1984, just a couple of years, and this is the discovery of the HIV. Robert Gallo. We hope to have a vaccine ready for testing in about 2 years. Okay, this was 1984. Okay. 1985, recent demonstrations of neutralizing antibodies in AIDS and pre-AIDS patients are encouraging. Prospect for a vaccine. Oh my gosh, fantastic. Nobody can say the data was encouraging. It's all smoke and mirrors. There's nothing there. John Poor, AIDS vaccine. John P. Moore, AIDS vaccine researcher. And so you go from, oh my God, this is exciting, to, wait a second, we're having a problem with this. 2005, so you're talking about 20 years later, development of an HIV vaccine remains one of the most difficult challenges confronting biomedical research today. When we look at 2007, and you're talking more than a decade devising the best ways to develop a vaccine. The vaccine did not seem to be working. More people among the vaccinated group were getting the virus than those who received the placebo. Roughly 90% of the vaccine studies were using major elements of the Merck's approach. Can you imagine that? Being in a study for HIV and getting the vaccine and catching the disease? 2008. We're talking Nobel Prize winning biologist. Scientists are no further forwarding development of a vaccine against HIV after more than 20 years of research. I love this. Co-chairman of the HIV Vaccine Summit. Despite hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, the reality in 2008 is that HIV vaccine clearly remains beyond our grasp. Now, why is that? Have they ever isolated the virus?
You can't make a vaccine for something that
doesn't there. Now, 2013, a major setback was that volunteers who received the vaccine shot were more likely to contract the virus than those who were given a placebo. Yeah, that'd be a drawback. Okay, and I love this, AIDS.gov. The only way to know for sure if you have HIV is to get tested. Okay, so that's a good idea. We all need to get tested. What test did they offer? I don't know. Let's look into it. First, HIV tests are often wrong and produce false positives. Well, that doesn't sound right. Most AIDS organizations claim that HIV testing, the ELISA, the Western blot, are 99.5% accurate. Okay, this is what they're advertising for these tests. The problem is they're as much as 90% inaccurate. That when you look at it, known factors cause false positives. Okay, I know this is tough, but when you look at this, we're talking antibodies that are naturally occurring, passive immunizations, immunoglobulins, tuberculosis, kidney disease, flu vaccine. If you get any flu vaccine, how many people are getting that? What about DPT shots, autoimmune diseases, respiratory tract infections, malaria, rheumatoid arthritis, hepatitis B vaccine? What's the vaccine that every child in America gets at 12 hours old? The hepatitis B, and that can give a false positive on an HIV test. Okay, factors known to cause false positives on antibody test. Page 2. I'm not sorry about the small print, because to find the truth behind a disease that doesn't exist, this is criminal. You got to look at the small print. Because by God, when you look at this, acute viral infections, hepatitis, antibodies for blood transfusions, multiple transfusions. That's one of the biggest things. If you get a foreign protein in your system, your body builds antibodies to it. Nobody has ever checked the antibody production of 69 doses of 16 different vaccines in our children today. Does that give a positive antibody test? Nobody knows. Okay, we're not testing healthy kids. We're looking at hyperbilirubinemia. If there's a problem with the liver, it's going to show possibles. Other retroviruses, we're calling mitochondrial disorders. And these are all antibodies. Epstein-Barr virus, receptive anal sex. This is why when you're looking at heterosex or vaginal sex, the vaginal canal isn't absorptive. Okay, the anal and rectum are. So when you get a receptive anal sex, the proteins in there are absorbed into the body. And just like getting a vaccine, you get a vaccine, your body responds to those foreign proteins. Okay, I mean, it's just so crazy. HIV tests are not the test for AIDS. You're going to see they're not the test for HIV. Antibody tests find certain antibodies in your blood. Now, it's interesting. Now, think of this. This is all infections. Okay, we're using antibodies to test the level of your body's ability to fight something. Okay, and what's supposed to happen if you're exposed to any virus, fungus, bacteria, okay, generally it's viral or bacterial, you're going to develop an immune system or response called an antibody. And supposedly when you have a lot of antibodies, you're supposed to be protected. Okay, now that's totally not true. Because in studies with patients who have a genetic anomaly called agammaglobulinemia, anyone want to try and say that 3 times really fast? Okay, that means they can't produce antibodies. Well, it turns out that they're able to fight and defeat viral infections and bacterial infections at the same rate that anybody who can't do that. So looking for antibodies doesn't really indicate that you have had exposure. But what in every other disease, what science is telling you is that if you have a lot of antibodies, you're protected from the disease. Except in this. In this, if you got antibodies, holy shit, you've been exposed, you're screwed. And that's the only disease, okay? Antibodies don't indicate infections. And in every other antibody test, to be positive for antibodies mean that you had an exposure to a prior viral infection and mounted a defense to it. I mean, for sure, many experts believe that HIV antibody positive means that you've successfully mounted a defense and you can fight off the virus. Babe, I didn't test positive yet, but I'm working for it. Okay, can you imagine being married to a guy with that sick of a sense of humor? Okay, fact 3, HIV testing has never been approved by the FDA. Are you aware of that? The Western blot, the ELISA, all the different tests, they've never been shown to be approved by the FDA. No HIV test, whether it uses blood, urine, saliva, has ever been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Were you aware of that? Okay, just checking. The HIV tests have never been validated. There's never been a group of people who tested HIV positive who were proven to be active HIV. Ever. Ever. Okay, there's never been a group who tested HIV negative and were proven not to have active HIV in their blood. Okay, so when you look at it, and we've got over 200 references, so please check these out at the end. The tests are not specific or unique for HIV. The proteins used in HIV test kits have never been proven to be unique. I mean, when you look at it, many of these proteins, they have nothing to do with any illnesses. So they're looking for viral fragments. In fact, this is one of the package inserts. Okay, and this is the disclaimer that's on the testing package to find out if you've got HIV positive. What does it say? At present, there is no recognized standard for establishing the presence or absence of antibodies to HIV-1 and HIV-2 in the human blood. Hi, this doesn't really work. Okay, so don't put a lot of stake in it, but your doctor's going to bill you for it. I mean, huh? Okay, so the CDC has got an idea. They take one blood sample, okay? They, out of the same source, same everything, same blood. They send it to 525 different laboratories. Some of them they send it 44 different times. Okay? And this is a sample that's proven positive by their ELISA test. And, you know, they all their experts said, yes, man, this is HIV positive. So let's find out. So what they're looking for is a type of protein. Okay? Now, these are the yeses, these are the nos for the 525 different samples, and it's just one sample of blood, tested 525 different times. So if I'm willing to blindfold everybody, spin you in a circle, give you a dart, and have you aim at a wall in the clinic. You'll probably hit it Oh, I don't know, 246 times out of 277? Or if you're facing the window, 86 times out of 430 times you're going to miss? And this is considered accurate? Okay, now, the American Journal of Clinical Pathology, they sent the same blood 44 different times, okay, and concluded that it was positively identified 59% of the time. Same blood sample was identified positive a little bit more than half the time. Okay, you know, it's crazy. 10 different ways of interpreting the test results. Now, what's tough is when you look at this, you're looking for proteins, and if that protein sequence matches, then it's going to be HIV positive. So each protein is labeled with a P followed by its molecular weight. Okay, the Western blot is not standardized, and around the world, different combined bands are considered to be positive. So if you have a band, let's say you have the protein P160 band, that's approved by the CDC, but it's not approved in Germany, it's not approved in the UK, it's not approved in France. Chickenpox in Japan, is it the same as chickenpox in America? Yeah. Can't say that with this. It's all an interpretation. Now, the viral tests have never been validated and have never been proven to be unique or specific to HIV tests. Were you aware of this? How many millions of people have been diagnosed HIV positive, had their lives ruined by something that doesn't exist? The disclaimer on the packages, okay, not intended to be used as screening tests for HIV or to confirm HIV infection. Then what the f*** are they being used for? Oh, Michael, bleep that out, please. It just pisses me off. I like people. You shouldn't scare them over something that's stupid. That's just wrong. High amounts of false positives, then they shouldn't be doing it at all. The T cell counts, even if they say, oh yeah, you have a low T cell count, you have a high T cell count, they vary day to day. The WHO says if you have less than 350 cells per microliter, oh, it's an indicator of of a HIV infection. However, when they look at full-blown HIV negative people, 3 to 5% head counts below that. So it just doesn't make any sense. There's no scientific evidence that proves HIV is transmitted through heterosexual intercourse, regardless of condom use. And when you look at the American Journal of Epidemiology, and to our knowledge, our study is the largest and longest of heterosexual transmission of HIV in the United States. The consistency of results over 10-year duration argues for the validity of our results. In general, we estimate that the infection from male to female transmission is approximately 0.0009 per contact, and that infection from female to male transmission is even lower. Why are they doing the fear? Journal of the American Medical Association. The results of our study challenge the concept that CD4 cell depletion is a chronic HIV infection, attributed to direct effects of HIV replication. Further efforts to delineate the relative contribution of other mechanisms will be crucial to understanding HIV immunopathogenesis and the ability to attenuate it. They're finding out that what they thought they knew, they don't know. And this is brilliant. The president of Rethinking AIDS. For 24 years and hundreds of billions of dollars of research, what are they giving us? Tests that don't detect the virus and toxic drug treatments. How toxic are the drugs? When we look at this, Rethinking AIDS, I mean, this is brilliant. They've got a mission statement. Can you imagine this? Okay, 85. So we're talking, 30 years? Okay, it's widely believed in the general public that a retrovirus called HIV causes a group of disease by AIDS. Did everybody in here believe that before you started? Yes? Okay. Many biochemical scientists now question this hypothesis. Are you questioning it so far? Huh. By the end of this, I guarantee you're all going to be freaking questioning it. We propose a thorough reappraisal of the existing evidence for and against this hypothesis be conducted by a suitable independent group. We further propose that critical epidemiologic studies be devised and undertaken. Makes sense to me. In over 30 years, no scientific evidence has yet appeared in the medical literature that says HIV has been isolated or purified from in AIDS patients. See, Koch developed these things called Koch postulates. You find an animal with a disease. You take a sample of the tissue or blood. You look for a pathogen. Okay? You grow that pathogen. You isolate that pathogen. It's called a viral isolate. You have to spin it through like a sucrose gradient. It's kind of cool because it all looks like a homogeneous pattern where they all look the same. Once you get a viral isolate, you find a healthy animal. Okay, am I going too fast? You inject them with this viral isolate. You have them develop the same disease. And then you take the same infected flesh, grow what killed that dog, rabbit, person, whatever, okay? And then you compare the viral isolates. Then you say, this is Koch postulate's been around for over 100 years. This is exactly how we can identify the disease. Okay, does that make sense? Has that ever been done with HIV or AIDS? Never. Never. A positive result to these markers is assumed but not proved to be indicating of actual infection. There's no universal standard exists. Now, the medications prescribed to HIV positives are toxic chemicals known to destroy the immune system. You know what they used to say when Magic Johnson got first diagnosed with HIV positive? Okay, now this was a long time ago. And they said, oh, you know, he's got the best therapy. He's been really quiet about the therapy he's doing. And I saw this one meeting of this group of scientists. And AZT is one of the drugs they use to treat HIV patients. AZT, you're going to find, is one of the most toxic drugs. It was even pulled off because it was so poisonous. Okay, and they said the only thing magic about AZT is there's no AZT in magic. Okay, so, well, you know, hey, you try and get humor in an AIDS talk, okay? It ain't that easy. Okay. Slow progression of HIV. Okay. Slows the progression. This is what they're talking about, the antiviral therapy. CDC says it can keep you healthy for many years. Really. The Journal of Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. All 4 classes of antiretrovirals and all 19 Food and Drug Administration approved antiretrovirals have been directly or indirectly associated with life-threatening events and deaths. So here the CDC is saying, yeah, man, take the drugs. And the journals are saying, don't do it. Now, this is, I got to apologize for the wording on this, but it's really, really important. This was a study out of the Journal of Acquired Immune Deficiency. It's one of the first to analyze the series of life-threatening events, AIDS events, and deaths in a large cohort. So you're actually giving this drug to a large group of people and seeing, what do they die of? Do they die of the drug? Do they die of AIDS? Are they healthier? And our principal finding is the rate of grade 4 events. Grade 4 means you're dying. Okay, death is just about imminent. It's greater than the rate of AIDS events. So the grade 4 events from the medications, you have a greater rate of dying from the drugs than you do with the AIDS. And found the risk of death associated with these grade 4 events was very high for many events. Thus, the incidence of AIDS events fails to capture the most of the morbidity experienced by patients with HIV infections prescribed by the high-active antiretroviral therapy. Better evidence is needed to determine how much of this morbidity is directly due to the highly active antiretroviral therapy. What bastard named that heart? Okay, I mean, that's just criminal. This study involved 12 prospective cohorts, 20,000 patients. Okay, 20,000 people, that's a good sample. The heart, highly active antiretroviral therapy. We aim to examine the trends and characteristics in patients starting heart in North America and Europe. Such improvement has, okay, virological response after starting HAART improved over the calendar years, but such improvement has not translated into a decreased mortality. There was no correspondence in decreased rate of AIDS or death for up to 1 year in follow-up. There is some evidence for an increased rate of AIDS in the most recent period. So they're using these drugs, but it's not helping. Now, what's the real cause of this? Remember, we're talking foreign proteins into the body mounts in response to it. They used to call it GRID, gay-related immune deficiency syndrome. And one of the reasons is some of the drugs that would weaken the immune system. They were called poppers. They actually weaken the immune system response and increase the lung infection. But also, when we look at this, what are some of the other foreign proteins that have been injected into us? Now, in the 50s, we had 7 vaccines. Okay, 7 total. In the 70s, we had 13 total. When we look at now, we've got 69 doses of 16 different vaccines. But look what happened in the 70s. We started to get 5 different oral polio vaccines. Now, this was known that the simian virus, the SIV virus, it's SIV40 virus, but there was a lot of different monkey viruses. See, the polio vaccine, viruses don't grow on their own. They're a well-organized molecular parasite. So in order to grow the polio virus, you have to put infected tissue on monkey tissue. And we actually use green monkeys. I mean, they're really, really cool for growing and reproducing polio. So I know what you're worried about, Doc. You're worried about transferring viruses that may be on there, and you're trying to isolate just the polio vaccine. He's just a scaredy cat. So back in the 50s, they said, screw it. Let's just inject this in a bunch of people, and then let's give them this oral polio. Okay, 5 doses of it. What'd you say? Why not 6? Do I hear 7? Do I hear 3? There's no science behind this. Okay. The article noted that primate kidney tissue cultures grows for mediums for the preparation of the oral polio vaccine, and that the donor primates harbored an immune deficiency virus. It's a retrovirus. So every time we're dropping this in people, it has the same retroviral thing. Now, don't worry. We stopped using the oral polio vaccine in this country because we found it was spreading polio. Okay, we don't use it anymore in this country. And in fact, it was the only cause of polio over the last 30 years, okay, in our country. No, don't worry. We're still making a profit. We sent it over to India, and we sent it over to Africa. Now, of course, the CDC says you can't send it to an area where they have weakened immune system or high HIV rates. Yes, like they do in Africa. So we're sending it over there, even though the CDC says not to do it. Okay, that it could weaken their immune system. Okay. Oh, here's one. The theory that medical research trials in the late 50s in the Congo and other regions of Africa provided the mechanism by which the SIV virus is spread to humans. When they were growing this, and they thought that they actually created this in a lab. Now, what's tough is, if you created a disease that started to attack the immune system, that was a retrovirus and it was part of a vaccine program, do you want to kind of like express that or suppress it? You want to suppress it because we're here for profit. Okay, so Edward Hooper, an independent science writer and investigator, you got to read the book The River. I mean, it's just brilliant. And here's a quote: because of the enormous implications of the hypothesis that AIDS may an unintended iatrogenic disease, is almost inevitable that this theory will engender heated opposition from many of those in the scientific establishment and those with vested interest. Heck, I mean, I should have a bomb under my car tonight. Okay, so when you look at this, you're talking an experimental oral polio vaccine. Yes, we're going to do it in a country without a media. Okay, because what if it causes a problem? Okay, 1 million subjects in Africa, okay, between 1957 and 60, including infants with underdeveloped immune system, took this. And they say that it was the most widely, one of the main sources of where this immune virus came from. I love this article. How to attack a scientific theory and get away with it. The attempt to destroy the origin of AIDS hypothesis. See, the opponents of the oral polio theory, granted, there's lots of them. They block publication in peer-reviewed journals. They put up smear campaigns. They've done false documentation, claimed repeatedly that the oral polio theory has been refuted. You know, vaccines are safe and effective. They really are, except when they're not. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Okay, and when are they not? Well, we have 1 in 2 children with a chronic illness or disease. We got 2 patients that came in today, full-blown autism from the DPT shot, proven in court. So when people say, hey, look, it's been proven that vaccines don't cause autism, well, that's not true. It's been proven that the oral polio vaccine does not cause AIDS or any type of retroviral response. Okay, Brian Martin, sociology professor, University of Australia. In many public policy disputes, scientific theories are attacked as part of a wider struggle involving politics, economics, and ethics. In such situation, it is naive to assume that scientific theories will be evaluated neutrally and fairly. Being prepared means that the attackers won't always get away with it. Okay, that's the mistake I made this weekend. I spoke at a conference, okay, called Lightning in a Bottle. I was very excited because they're asking how to survive in a medical world that's not based in science. And I thought, man, this is great. And so I look at the past speakers and no one's wearing a tie and a suit. This is more like a sarong, incense kind of thing. And I thought, cool, these people are going to be really enlightened. Okay, and I'm building a PowerPoint for it, and I think, no, I'm not going to need facts or anything. I'm talking about the body being smart and healthy and everything else. And I go up there and I say, vaccines are not good. They trigger an inflammatory response. And this girl goes up and says, what about polio? And I go, wait a second. Are you under the impression that polio affected a lot of people? Yeah! And I said, well, okay, you realize that 1 in 1,000 people had permanent paralysis. Yeah! So that means 99.9% of everybody that got it got over within about 2 weeks with no permanent markers whatsoever. So wouldn't it be more effective to look at that 0.1% that had the problem? And then why was it a disease of the summer? Why did it affect children? So what are the other factors in there? Did you know that we're spreading polio, we're spreading diseases, and the oral polio vaccine that I got actually contained the SV40 virus? That's why there's a massive rise in lymphomas and cancers in my age group. But you know what my biggest mistake was? I didn't have the documentation to back it up. It's just me talking. And so I said, good, go to my YouTube channel. I talk about polio a long time. It's frustrating. This right here, okay, having the document, being prepared, the attackers won't get away with it. You got to be prepared. That's why these YouTube videos are done.
Why is that? Because they're lazy and they can't do their own research?
No. Propaganda's been used forever. Okay, it's been used forever. Okay, we don't like the homeless, let's gather them up. We don't like the gypsies, who likes them? Gather them up. Okay, we don't like the Jews. Hey, wait a second, that's my brother-in-law. Okay, they're trying to manipulate you with the media. That's what this is. Okay, Jonas Lalandis, a Stanford professor. Okay, there's an increasing concern that most current published research findings are false. Think of that. The greater the financial and other interest and prejudices in a scientific field, the less likely the research findings are to be true. Okay, because there are vested interests. There's no independent money for research. Look at this. Vaccine testing in the 50s and 60s may have caused the AIDS epidemic. Okay, HIV testing is extremely inaccurate. Antiretroviral treatments can produce and probably will kill you, and it may even cause AIDS. This information has been suppressed. It is. 2009, you're talking over $11 billion in the antiretroviral drugs. And in just 1 year, you're not talking about the billions of dollars flowing in. Okay, what are the natural solutions? I mean, you're looking at standard whey protein, anything to stimulate glutathione synthesis. Oh, what decreases glutathione? Tylenol. Okay, what decreases the immune system? The poppers. Okay, curcumin, antioxidants, selenium, licorice, fruits and vegetables, seaweed, St. John's wort, shiitake mushrooms, pomegranates, rosemary, blue algae. I mean, we're talking about everything. I know it sounds crazy, but if you think everything that you do to strengthen your immune system is good, stuff that you do that weakens the immune system is bad. Okay? I'm going to give you AZT. It's the most toxic drug ever. It was removed from the market because it was too poisonous for cancer. Okay, we're going to give you that. Okay, nutrients to boost your immune system. Selenium, glutathione, B vitamins. And I love this. Physicians involved in a selenium and amino acid field trial in Botswana are reporting that this nutritional protocol reverses AIDS 99% of the time, usually within 3 weeks. Wait a second, really? Amazing. Micronutrient deficiencies known to influence immune function are prevalent before the development of symptom of HIV. Micronutrient supplementation has improved the markers for HIV. I don't have the case study up here, but this guy, he was with me for about 6 months, 20 years HIV positive, getting treated by the VA. And I said, look, you don't have it. It doesn't exist. They've never isolated the virus. Start doing this stuff, okay, and you'll be HIV negative. He was. B vitamins, C vitamins, trace elements. I mean, selenium may also have an important role in preventing HIV replication. Journal of the American Medical Association. These are the things that negatively affect your immune system. Vaccinations negatively affected. Antibiotics, medications, environmental toxins, GMO. It destroys the gut flora. Lack of proper nutrition, nutritional deficiencies, and chronic stress. Have you seen this before? Yes, we talk about the same thing. You really only need a healthy nervous system, regular exercise, proper nutrition, sufficient rest, and prayer and meditation. All of this stuff actually works. I mean, I know this is a little bit long and wordy of a talk. I could have put in how the poppers, you know, that's common in certain sex practices, weakens the immune system, increases fungal infections, how AZT is too toxic for chemotherapy, and they give it because they're trying to weaken the immune system in somebody who's already weakened. Or how many dozens and dozens of diseases. There's over 29 different diseases that are categorized as AIDS. If I got pneumocystis carinii, okay, which is definitive diagnosis, and I'm a white heterosexual male, I just got pneumonia. If I got pneumocystis carinii and I'm, you know, an IV drug using homosexual guy, I got AIDS. Do you understand the difference? That's foolishness. What kind of therapy would I choose to get rid of pneumocystis carinii? All of this stuff that's been proven. Okay, does that make sense? You strengthen the immune system. Any questions? Oh, by the way, we have over 200 different references here. Okay, so for the people that run out and say, blasphemer, blasphemer, how dare you screw with my belief system? Okay, look up the references, honest to goodness, okay? You'll have a good time, okay? It will hurt, there will be smoke coming out of your ears, but you'll be fine.
There will be a surprise outbreak. Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with. So for those who think that infectious diseases is gone, there's so many people who've made foolhardy statements not knowing at the time that they made them. I usually show a quote from an old Surgeon General or an old pundit in infectious disease. So I thought I'd pull this one out from Sir Macfarlane Burnet, who was actually a Nobel Prize winning immunologist, who made the statement, as many did, to write about infectious diseases is almost to write of something that has passed into history. The most likely forecast about the future of infectious diseases is that it will be very dull, which is really kind of interesting coming from a semi-genius like Macfarlane Burnet. And I think what he did, and the mistake that so many people have made, is something that several of our panelists have already referred to. And that is a failure to look beyond our own borders in the issue of the globality of health issues. Not only things that are there that will come here, but surprises that we have. What are the lessons that we learned from HIV? One, you have to commit substantial financial and human resources. These things don't get addressed spontaneously by themselves. You have to enlist the best and the brightest investigators in both basic and clinical research. You have to involve the community, be it the gay community in the United States, or the community in Africa and West Africa when we dealt with Ebola, or the people in South America when we're dealing with Zika. You have to have cross-sector collaboration. You can't do it alone. The CDC can't do it alone. The NIH can't do it alone. You do it with all of us, with industry, with global organizations, with philanthropy and NGOs, and you gotta get the leaders and the policymakers involved. What is for sure, that no matter what, history has told us definitively that it will happen, because infectious diseases, as I said 8 years ago in this article with David Morins and Greg Folkers, that it is a perpetual challenge. It is not going to go away. So the thing we're extraordinarily confident about is that we are going to see this in the next few years. Thank you.
The sad reality is that despite our progress, we're still losing people to this virus, which is especially tragic given at this point it is unnecessary and preventable. Virtually all COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths in the United States are now occurring among unvaccinated individuals.
The only conclusion one can reasonably come to from looking what I've told you over the last few minutes is, please get vaccinated. It will protect you against the surging of the Delta variant. There are many individuals who would feel, because of age or because of an underlying condition, that they might want to wear a mask. Having said that, let me emphasize that if you are vaccinated, you have a very high degree of protection, and therefore you do not need to wear a mask.
Yesterday, CDC reported a little over 14,000 new cases of COVID-19. Our 7-day average is about 13,900 cases per day, and this represents an increase in cases of nearly 11% from the prior 7-day average. The 7-day average of hospital admissions is about 2,000 per day. This also represents an increase of about 7% from the prior 7-day average. In areas of low vaccination coverage, cases and hospitalizations are up. Further, we are seeing some small clusters and larger outbreaks of COVID-19 in locations such as camps and community events, where proper, hard-learned prevention strategies are not enforced and the virus is readily able to thrive.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
The reading of the protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's a secret covenant. And here is Jeff at StopThePirates.com. He has other sensational videos. He's very knowledgeable in the law and the things that are been passed against us. So take a listen.
The Elders of Zion. Here we go. The secret covenant. An illusion, it will be so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane. Thank you. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal is to be accomplished one drop at a time, so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the absolute. We will work together always and will remain bound by blood and secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. We will keep their lifespans short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure for their many fronts, from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. Pharmaceutical industry. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths, and they will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. From all of this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, in what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We must be ingenious in dispensing our poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them that the poisons are good, with fun images and musical tones. McDonald's. Those they will look up to will help. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products used in film and will grow accustomed to them, and will never know their true effects. When they give birth, they will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it's for their help. We will start early on when their minds are young. We will target their children with what children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals that will kill their mind and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them sicker and create other diseases, for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us with our power. They will grow more depressed, slow, and obese. And when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will focus their attention towards money and material goods, so they will never connect with their inner self. We will distract them with fornication, external pleasures, and games, so they may never be one with the oneness of it all. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do what we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective, but carry out our plan. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families must never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from the oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently. letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will foment animosity among them through our factions. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule or death, whichever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts apart and kill their own children. We will accomplish this by using hate as our ally and anger as our friend. The hate will blind them totally, and they will never see that from their conflict, we emerge as their rulers. They will be busy killing each other. We will bathe in their blood and kill their neighbors for as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot connect us. We will continue to prosper from their wars and from their deaths. We shall repeat this over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished. We will continue to make them live in fear and anger through the images and sounds. We will use all the tools we have to accomplish this. The tools will be provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. This they must never know. They must never know that a man's color is an illusion. They must always think they are not equal. Drop by drop, we shall advance our goal. We will take over their land, resources, and wealth to exercise total control over them. We will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom that they will have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story to the world, for we shall own all the media. We will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiment in our favor. When they shall rise up against us, we shall crush them like insects, for they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. We will recruit some of them to help us carry out our plans. We will promise them eternal life, but the eternal life they will never have, for they are none of us. The recruits will be called initiates, and will be indoctrinated to believe false rites of passage to higher realms. Members of these groups will think that they are one of us, never knowing the truth. They must never learn this truth, for they will turn against us.
Big board company. Oh, yeah. It's a big move at an office that could change the way a lot of Americans work. A tech company in Wisconsin is offering to implant tiny microchips into its employees.
Not just no. The chips could allow people to unlock office doors, make purchases. Rebecca, come on here.
So many questions about this, Robin and Michael. Good morning. We asked a lot of them. This is the first American company to ever try this. 1 week from today, many of the employees, including the CEO, will voluntarily have the microchips implanted into their bodies, and they're calling it, I'm not kidding here, a chips and salsa party.
Oh. This morning, like a scene straight out of 007.
So you can keep an eye on me?
Employees at one Wisconsin tech company, 3 Square Market, willingly making that fantasy a reality, implanting their own bodies with microchips.
What did the employees say when you brought this idea to them?
Half of them actually within 5 seconds says yes.
CEO Todd Westby, along with 50 of his 80 colleagues, even his wife and kids, preparing to implant these chips, the size of a grain of rice, between their forefingers and thumbs, so they can do everything from buy snacks in the break room to log in the morning to unlocking doors with just the swipe of a hand.
What did it take to persuade the holdouts?
Basically, we had to explain to them there's no tracking of the information. It's not GPS or anything like that.
The radio frequency technology in the devices, approved by the FDA, will be inserted with a small needle by a licensed technician. Some internet experts warn that the convenience could come at a cost.
Many things start off with the best of intentions, but sometimes intentions turn. We've survived thousands of years as a species without being microchipped. Is there any particular need to do it now?
Participation is optional, and some are holding out.
There's always the fear of infection, so it's the unknown right now.
But many are excited to give the new technology a try.
I think it's kind of cool. Just pop it up there and it'll work.
Just pop it up there. It's that simple. So to give you a sense, here's a grain of rice. The chips will be inserted like this grain of rice right here between your thumb and your forefinger. And most of the employees have opted in. It is voluntary.
One size fits all, I guess. Now, what happens if you get the implant and then you're like, I don't want this anymore?
So they told me, in case this happens, you pop it out. You literally push it out the way you would push a splinter out of your hand. Yes.
Okay.
Are you on board?
No.
When Elias Brotberger goes to work, he doesn't need ID. And he doesn't need money. In fact, much of what he needs to get through the day is hidden right there, just below the surface, in his hand.
You like to touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, weird. Yeah, it's like a grain of rice.
Yeah, a grain of rice.
Embedded in his hand is a microchip that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
Yeah, it's all on chip, so I use it like to get around the building.
Buy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's buy some snacks. Exactly. So I can't open it.
No.
Okay.
So what I need to do is I need to first blip my chip, and it will log me in, and from there I get access to the fridge.
Popular TV shows like Black Mirror have imagined chips as part of a dystopian future.
Install in-grain procedure with local anesthetic and you're good to go.
In Sweden, the microchips are already here.
The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards,
which have made cash pretty much obsolete in Sweden.
No cash.
At this tech fair, a chipping event for those on the cutting edge, merging their hands with this new technology.
I thought it would be fun, right?
The process is simple and swift. A pinch of the skin, and in a matter of seconds, the chip is inserted. The transformation is complete. As for the pain,
I barely felt it.
But even in this nation of early adopters, not everyone is racing to get chipped.
Feel less human. I will feel like a robot. I think, so much more data can go into this, when it's in your body.
There's no central registry tracking how many people are chipped, but biohacker Hannes Wellblood estimates between 5,000 and 10,000.
In the future, do you think everyone is going to be chipped?
I think it'll be voluntary, but I am certainly convinced that millions of people will find it very, very valuable to have a smart device under their skin.
Human microchipping may be our future, but in Sweden, it's already reality. Sarah Harmon, NBC News, Stockholm.
Approximately how many coronavirus patients have you seen? How many? You don't know? 2? 100? 3. You've seen 3.
So again, there are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
How do you know they had corona? Do you guys test in the ambulance? You don't know. You assume.
Cases are being found right here. Crowded subway cars may have accelerated the spread. New York's governor says FEMA gave the state 400 ventilators. To that, he said this.
What am I going to do with 400 ventilators when I need 30,000?
So when you're watching this from CBS, the slant, is the great need for the equipment. You don't have enough equipment. So the crowded ER shot demonstrates we have an epicenter of this disease in New York, and we don't have enough. We need 30,000 ventilators. But the only problem is this footage has already run on Sky News on March 22nd, talking about Italy. Yeah.
This is the main hospital in Bergamo, in Lombardy province. It's one of the most advanced hospitals in Europe. But it's the most hard-hit of all the hospitals.
Once again this morning, the city's hospitals will be
Public health officials warned that when a coronavirus vaccine is ready, the next hurdle is how to get that vaccine out to the public quickly and in massive numbers. Joining me now is Jay Walker. He's the CEO of ApiJect, a company that entered into a $138 million deal with the Trump administration called Project Jumpstart. Welcome, Mr. Walker.
Glad to be here, Lori.
So what is Project Jumpstart?
Well, Project Jumpstart is an emergency and temporary program in the battle against COVID-19. It's a public-private partnership between my company, ApiJect Systems of America, and the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Defense. And its purpose is to ensure that by year end, we'll have at least 100 million doses ready to inject of a vaccine or therapeutic, assuming one is available.
How does the optional RFID chip work?
Well, each of these devices that are injecting have the capacity to also have a small chip. What that chip does is it has the unique serial number for each dose. It is designed so that there is no counterfeiting. It's designed so that we'll know exactly that the right dose hasn't expired. However, that chip only refers to the dose. There's no personal information, no patient information. It's simply like a barcode, only we know instantaneously where and when that dose has been used. That also helps public health officials know when there are outbreaks, have we vaccinated enough people in those areas? That technology is purely optional, however, and the U.S. government hasn't even decided if they're going to use it.
How quickly can you manufacture the vaccines, and what's your long-term goal?
Well, we don't make vaccines, Lori. Drug companies make the vaccines. They then ship them to us for the packaging. So our long-term goal is to make sure that no matter what vaccine wins or what vaccines and what therapeutics are available, America can fill and finish in these pre-filled syringes as many of the drugs as we need for U.S. citizens and eventually to have excess that we can export worldwide. Our goal is to make sure that on American soil, we have everything we need to protect America.
When do you think you might start filling these with the vaccine?
Well, the president has said that that vaccine will be ready this year. So if that vaccine shows up at our door, we're going to be ready to fill it as soon as it does.
Well, it's a fascinating new technology. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. Jay Walker, CEO of ApiJect, thanks for being here. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me, Lori.
Hey, everyone. I'm Ashley Key. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can reach more people with encouraging content like you just watched.
One issue that has come up is once you do have a vaccine, how do you properly distribute it? How do you get it out quickly to millions?
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers, and they do lots of other things that, frankly, are more difficult. But we have our general, and logistically, he's all set. Tony, do you want to say something about that?
That is correct. As the vaccine rolls out, we'll be getting them distributed. And as you probably have heard, we are going to make sure that we do it in an equitable way, and it's representative of the populations who need it the most. And we have the standard way that we determine that with the ACIP working with the CDC, but Dr. Collins and Dr. Redfield have put together with the National Academy of Medicine a group that will fortify that decision-making process so that we're making sure that we're very fair and equitable in getting the vaccine distributed properly.
And I think I could have Francis say that tremendous progress has been made on the vaccine beyond anything that we would have thought if you go back 6 months. What do you think?
It is just, frankly, quite astounding, Mr. President. I've been at NIH for 27 years and director for 11, and I've seen some amazing things happen. But the way in which the whole research community, public and private, philanthropies, everybody has come together to work on this, not worrying about who gets the credit, trying to figure out how to strip away anything that's going to slow things down. And I think all of us, motivated by the fact that this is the most serious problem we've encountered in our professional lifetimes, even a day matters. And so that's why a lot of people look kind of sleepy, because we're all working 24/7, trying to make sure that nothing possibly slows this process down. Yeah, the vaccines, this week is a big week, as you just heard, having 2 phase 3 trials started in the very same day, this past Monday. And based upon very impressive phase 1 data showing that people who got that in the phase 1 trials developed these high levels of neutralizing antibodies that should be very predictive of protection, but you don't know until you actually run the trial in those 30,000 people. By the way, you heard earlier about coronavirus.gov, which is the place you can go to find out how you can donate plasma. There's another thing you can do if you go to that website, which is to sign up to say you're interested in a vaccine trial. And we need people to volunteer for that as well, because we're going to, with these 4 or 5 trials coming along very quickly, each of which needs 30,000 volunteers, that's a lot of people, and we need them.
And Francis, we're working very well with other countries.
We are indeed. And science has always been international, and it certainly is right now. And we work with our colleagues in Europe and the UK and Asia in a way that I think represents the best of the best. And again, everybody recognizes we're all in this together across the whole planet.
People, look at the testing centres. This is what they're telling you testing is going on in. Where's the testing? They're empty. They're abandoned, people. There is no testing going on. Where's the testing? Where is it? The show that's getting put on for you. Leo and Coveney and Simon will be down out for the follow-up soon and have loads of people with masks letting on to be coming in to get tested. Look, do we there is no bloody testing. Right down to the end, look.
Are you tired of the same old Grand Canyon?
Here we are, kids, the Grand Canyon.
It's so old and boring. I want a new one. Now!
Hello, I'm Tom Hanks. The U.S. government has lost its credibility, so it's borrowing some of mine.
Toss my hair, Mr. Hanks.
Sure thing, son. Now, I'm pleased to tell you all about the new Grand Canyon. Coming this weekend. It's east of Shelbyville and south of Capital City.
That's where Springfield is.
It's nowhere near where anything is or ever was. This is Tom Hanks saying if you're going to pick a government to trust, why not this one?
Did you see that? Yes, they're going to destroy Springfield.
This morning, some good news from Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson battling coronavirus in Australia. The star updated his fans, tweeting, 2 weeks after our first symptoms and we feel better. Hanks wrote Sunday, sheltering in place works like this. You don't give it to anyone, you don't get it from anyone. Wilson captured some of what she called quarantine stir crazy, rapping to Naughty by Nature's 1992 hit, Hip Hop Hooray.
Hip hop hooray, ho, hey, ho.
It comes as other stars battling coronavirus are sharing their stories. Bravo's Andy Cohen posted this on Instagram. After a few days of self-quarantine and not feeling great, I have tested positive for coronavirus. Actor Idris Elba, who tested positive for the disease last week, got slammed on social media for not isolating himself away from his wife Sabrina. Now she too has been diagnosed with the virus. The couple explained their decision in an online interview with Oprah Winfrey.
If I had caught it, she'd certainly caught it in that time period as well. So, I think, people were are right to have highlighted that spatial distance is important. We weren't thinking about that specifically.
Meanwhile, helping to spread the message through some music, singer Neil Diamond, who
Florida State Representative has apparently fired an aide who claimed that some of the survivors of the Parkland school shooting were crisis actors. These students have been very vocal about stricter gun control and holding rallies for lawmakers to take action. Benjamin Kelly, who worked as a district secretary for Republican Representative Sean Harrison, emailed a reporter claiming some of the students who were on TV were actors. One of the students accused of being an actor is David Hogg, who says the rumors are simply not true.
These people saying this is absolutely disturbing, and I'm not an actor in any sense, way, shape, or form. I go to Stoneman Douglas High School, and I was a witness to this. I'm not a crisis actor. I'm somebody that had to witness this and live through this, and I continue to have to do that.
And David Hogg is a student journalist at the high school television station.
On the day of the shooting, I got my camera and got on my bike and rode as fast as I could 3 miles from my house to the school to get as much video and get as many interviews as I could, because I knew that this could not be another mass shooting. And I don't want this just to be another mass shooting. I want this to be the last mass shooting.
Wow, David, you are a well-spoken young man. Where were you yesterday when the shooting started?
So yesterday I was in my AP Environmental Science class. We had just taken out all of our notes and we were about to pack up to leave we were about to leave school, and we hear a pop. And it happened to be a gunshot that echoed through the hallway. And because of that, my teacher actually went and closed the door. But as soon as she closed the door, the fire alarm was pulled. So this sick man could come and get more soft targets. Silly, not thinking critically. We walked outside, and that's when he started taking down even more people because of the fire alarm going off. And luckily, when we were actually going out to our fire evacuation zone, and as we were headed out there, a flood of people started running in the opposite direction, saying, go this way, go this way. So I followed the herd, and as we were running like in this one direction, we happened to be running towards the shooter. But thank God there was a janitor there that told us not to go any further, because there was because the gunman was right there. And he got us all into one classroom with the help of Chef Kurth. And as a result of that, I think they saved easily like 40 lives that day, just with 1 minute of action. And that's what I really want to push through, is the fact that just 1 small minute of action can make a huge difference. And that's what I want people at home to know. They can make a difference in their community. They can make a difference in the world. They can do that by calling out their congressmen, talking to government legislators, and letting them know this is not acceptable, because everybody is getting used to this, and that's not okay. There have been 18 more mass shootings than there needed to be this year at schools, and that's way more than we need, and it needs to come to an end, because the next thing you know, if you let this keep happening, it's going to be your kid that's next.
Welcome to the abortion of a movie called Lone, starring David Hogg, Delaney Tarr, Cameron Kasky, Ryan Deitch. These Fad Four have repeatedly and ferociously denied they are, or have ever been, actors, in any way, shape, or form. We will see about that. I have not edited Lone in any way. It came to me without any sound, so I added a soundtrack. Be warned, this movie makes Vanilla Sky look like a Shakespearean masterpiece. Ryan Deitch, Cameron Kasky, Delaney Tarr, Ryan Deitch, David Hogg, Ryan Deitch. Guess who likes the ladies? Delaney Tarr. Cameron Kasky. Not only did these actors lie about them being actors, but isn't odd that the exact 4 actors in this movie, Lone, are the exact 4 activist actors the press holds up as heroes and considers them as the clairvoyant messiahs of all that is knowable. That's quite the coincidence, don't you think, Wake?
My brother, my little brother, I only have one brother, Christopher, tested positive for coronavirus. A lot of people are concerned about him, obviously, people in my family, but even beyond that. New Yorkers are very compassionate, and many people ask me about Chris and how's he doing, not just for himself, but we keep talking about this coronavirus. I'm afraid of it. I'm anxious about it. What does it actually mean? Okay, your brother has it. How's he doing? So a lot of people ask me that question, and I talk to him quite frequently, and he is doing okay. And I checked in with him this morning and asked him how he was feeling, and he was up and spry and much his normal self. I invited him to join us for a couple of minutes if he was up to it this morning. And I think he said that he was in a position to join us. And I asked him to join us by video if he's available. There he is, with his hat, Cuomo Prime Time. Say hello to you. There, I saw it. It's hard to miss. You're looking... Let's get after it. Let's get after it. I love that saying. You're looking fit and fine. Many people are asking about you. I tell you the truth, everyone I talk to is asking about you and how you're doing and how you're handling it and how...
So we covered Chris Cuomo's kind of a bit of a breakdown that he had on the radio whenever he talked about how much he hated his job, even though he just signed a new contract. Jeff
Zucker. It was a breakdown. I think it was a moment of...
It was odd. It was weird.
Honesty. I don't know.
I don't know what it was, but... and so he emerged from his basement yesterday, from his quarantine basement, making it sound as if it was the first time that he did so. Let's take a listen to that, and then we're going to react to it.
All right, here it is. The official re-entry from the basement. Cleared by CDC, a little sweaty, just worked out, happens. This is what I've been dreaming of, literally for weeks. My wife, she was cleared by the CDC. She doesn't have fever, she doesn't have the symptoms anymore, more than 7 days from her quarantine. We're still a little scared, so I'll just give you one of these, just give you one of these, just give you one of these, just give you one of these. Bella has, of course, taken the video.
So you watch that clip, Crystal, and it makes it seem as if, like, oh, Chris is finally coming out of the basement. This is the first time.
First look of him emerging
ever
officially.
Happened. First look. I mean, first of all, I could never do something like that. It's so embarrassing. It's like fancy Southampton home. But, okay, that's not the weird part. The weird part is that's not the first time he's gone out of the basement. And we know that because of the altercation that he described in that radio interview that we talked about earlier, where he's like, I don't want to be standing on my lawn, somebody coming after me and, cursing at me.
Got yelled at by a biker, yeah.
So here's the thing. He already has publicly said that he broke quarantine on Easter Sunday to take his wife and children to look at an undeveloped property in East Hampton, New York, as all of us do
on Easter Sunday.
We go real estate prospecting in one of the richest places in America. I mean, who among us hasn't done that? But the point is, first of all, this is literally just fake news. Like, it's actual fake news of the whole, emerging from the thing. But it's just so dramatic and weird, the entire thing that surrounds it. To make this entire segment of this is the first time I'm emerging and look at me, I'm a responsible citizen. He even tweeted afterwards, he's like something to the effect of please stay home, make sure. He broke quarantine. I mean, he literally, and he admitted to it. He got into an altercation with a biker who was like, why are you outside? You're the governor's brother and you have coronavirus. I agree with you, Mr. Biker.
Yeah. Well, and I also love a great friend of the show, Emily Jashinsky,
Yes.
doing the Lord's work and tracking all of the known emergences of Chris Cuomo prior to the official emergence, I guess is what this is.
Yeah, let's throw up.
We throw up her tear sheet.
Yeah.
Because apparently he also appeared in his daughter, some of her TikTok videos, not in the basement. There were multiple emergences before the official emergence occurred from the basement. And I also just think it's funny. Like, look, I'm really glad that Chris is doing better. I'm glad that Brooke Baldwin is doing better, both of whom contracted coronavirus. But it's also so navel-gazing to, there are a lot of people who have coronavirus right now, and you are a news anchor, and there was an exorbitant amount of making the coverage about himself and about their journey through coronavirus and all of that. And look, I get a certain amount of that. It's sort of like the celebrity culture thing where people are just curious about how this is going for you. But the kind of peak moment, I think, was the official emergence, which wasn't even the actual.
I would be fine with that if he was actually following public health guidelines. If he was trying to set himself as an example, like, hey, look, I have coronavirus. This thing sucks. I'm quarantined here. Please do everything. These are the steps to which I have taken. But instead, it's like just this tip, like talking about how much money he has and why he could get fired tomorrow, and he still has all of his savings, and going to his undeveloped property. Or an undeveloped property in East Hampton, breaking quarantine, talking about how the worst part of being rich and famous is you don't get to fight back against people who yell at you for breaking quarantine. So
our hearts bleed.
Yeah, I'm really sorry for you, Chris. Congratulations on your official.
We're glad you're better.
Yeah.
We're glad you have officially emerged now.
I know. I hope you can take some of the millions you have and close on that undeveloped property. We wish you the best.
Tomorrow on Rising, the one and only former Sanders campaign national co-chair and great friend of the show, Nina Turner, is going to join us.
And, of course, journalist Gerald Posner is discussing his latest book, Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. Please don't forget to subscribe and, of course, like and share our videos. Send in your hashtag RisingQs to let us know what burning questions that you have for Crystal and I to answer. Hit that subscribe button. See you guys tomorrow.
Have a good one, guys.
Now the other side of the story involving CNN anchor Chris Cuomo and a man on a bicycle. The cyclist is now speaking up, and the way he tells it, he was so unnerved by the exchange of words with Cuomo that he filed a police report about the incident. He spoke exclusively with our Stephen Fabian.
This man says he had a nasty encounter with CNN anchor Chris Cuomo over COVID-19 quarantine. Now he's talking exclusively to Inside Edition.
He started getting very agitated very quickly.
The confrontation came to light when Cuomo, who is recovering from COVID-19, raged about it on his Sirius XM radio show.
I don't want some jackass, loser, fat tire biker to be able to pull over and get in my face and in my space and talk to me. I don't want to hear it.
We can now reveal that the cyclist is 65-year-old David Whelan. The cyclist says it all started when he was out for a bike ride and noticed several people at this property that Chris Cuomo owns in the ritzy Hamptons. The cyclist says he stopped his bike about 100 feet away, and that's when he recognized the CNN anchor.
I said, "You're supposed to be quarantining. What are you doing out? What are you doing with all these people? You're not," I said, "you're not even practicing social distancing."
Whelan says Cuomo confronted him.
And he, at that point, began to come closer. Who the hell are you? What do you know about this? What do you know about the rules?
Whelan says he brought up Cuomo's brother, the governor of New York.
I did tell him, your brother is the coronavirus czar. Why aren't you following his rules? That didn't make him happy. He was coming closer and closer and very angry. He said, "You have not seen the last of me over this, and you will meet me again over this."
Did that seem like a threat to you?
It's pretty much a threat to me when a guy's, furious and, yeah, that's a threat.
Whelan says he left before Cuomo, whose wife has also tested positive for COVID-19, got within 40 feet of him. A CNN spokeswoman says Chris has said emphatically that this has never happened. Chris was following all social distancing guidelines and wearing a mask in his own backyard with his immediate family members. A complete stranger approached them from their own private driveway in order to curse at Chris in front of his wife and children.
No charges were filed.
First to be put on the lockdown. There's no long lines of people dealing with the virus present. The parking lots are eerily empty. And I'd like to applaud all these folks with the ability to question what we're being told, who have enough desire for truth to get out and verify it for themselves.
And you guys don't know anything about where the testing is being done? I haven't found a single place that'll test anybody. Do you know? Yeah, they have lists in them when you go.
Is that the numbers that you see on ships and a lot of these conspiracies on buildings, whatever it may be, go back to ancient Hebrew, ancient Greek, and ancient Arabic. Angel followed the other two. He said in a loud voice, "Any person who worships the beast or its idol and takes its mark on his forehead or hand will also feel God's anger. He is very angry. That person will be burned with fire and dust that chokes people when it burns. He will be burnt in front of the holy angels and the Lamb being Jesus Christ." That is what's going on with this whole vaccination.